Welcome to today's live stream. I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on why you shouldn't freak out why nobody should freak out if their candidate doesn't win. This country feels like a tinderbox ready to go up, and I believe that's all by design. You look back over how they play us against one another and pit left against right, black against white, male against female, country against country, and you see the same patterns always emerging. And so finally you wake up and you go, oh, I see what you guys are up to. I get your game. Don't freak out if your candidate doesn't win. I think that's exactly what they want to have happen. Remember, they thrive whenever we are fighting against one another. For some reason, these people, they're not right in the head. And when I say these people, I'm talking about the power structures of our country, knowing full well that we have power as well, right? We have the ability to focus and create. God created us as creators. We're created in the image of the Creator. But in this world, there's a lot of people that have maintained power for a long time, and they use that power to, let me just turn this up a little bit here. A little bit. And they use that power to keep wealth, to maintain wealth, to take wealth, to move their agenda forward. Things like wars and famines and weapons that hurt human beings and gold. I mean, this is a fallen world, and in a fallen world, there's some bad guys and gals in this world. So they're going to try to manipulate us, and this is why we have to maintain our most important asset. And this is another reason why I recommend people, turn off the media and turn off and be very discerning about what movies and music you listen to, and what books you read, and what people, thanks for the thumbs up, I appreciate you, and what people you associate yourself with. We have power as well, but there are people in this world that have control over mass media, control over publications, control over movies, control political candidates, and that's really what the central idea of this live stream today is. Regardless of what candidate wins the election, there is a high probability, if not a perfect probability, that the war machine will continue to rage on, unfortunately. The financial system will continue to do what it's going to do and has been doing, which is enslaving people through debt and through loans that they can never pay back. This is what I believe happens when countries when the International Monetary Fund goes into countries and says, well, it looks like you need a loan. Well, I've got a bunch of money here for you. Why don't we give you a loan, and we'll structure it in such a way where if you don't pay back your loan, we get your natural resources, or we get assets in this way. And this is how countries' valuable natural resources get gobbled up. Again, not to be defeatist and not to be like, sad and gloomy about it, but just be aware of it. Many people are waking up. I'm one of them. I had a huge awakening in 2022, 2023. And if I have an awakening, I have to believe other people are having an awakening as well. And I see it. In my time on earth so far in this life, I've never seen so many people awake and aware as they are right now. I always look at life as a continuum, right? Yes, there could be people that are still asleep, and that's fine. And yes, there are people that are completely awake and totally enlightened about what's happening in the world. And then all of us fall somewhere on that continuum. And what I'm seeing is I'm more awake than I was a few years ago. And I'm more awake than I was 5 years ago and 10 years ago for sure. But the massive jump, it was spurred on by what happened with COVID. It was so weird and so out of character for these clowns that it was like, okay, it caused me to dig deeper. But my point is this: I'm seeing everyone is further awake than they were. People close to me are awakening. I'm awakening. You probably see people awakening. It's an interesting situation we find ourselves in. But and that's what I think they're also trying to put people back in the matrix, back in the box of like, okay, go back to sleep. But I don't think people are going back. Um, you know, money runs this. And whenever I see people putting too much faith in presidents, and I used to do it as well. I used to get really worked up about, oh my gosh, if this president doesn't win, my life's going to suck a little more. But I don't think that way anymore. I'm taking all of my power back to me and what I can do in the world, and I'm no longer putting my hope and faith in any man outside of myself other than Jesus Christ, right? And I think about what God would do and what would Jesus do. And I don't think Jesus would get himself worked up by what president wins, because it's just a power structure of this physical world, and we're spiritual beings enjoying a human experience, as many have talked about. And Wayne Dyer talks about. Thank you, I appreciate that. Because I do see tensions are super high. I posted something the other day on my social media at GMark and it was a picture of Kamala and Trump in clown makeup and clown hair, and it got a lot. And basically the message was, I'm not voting for either of the clowns because I see that they're both controlled by power structures in this world, which are finance, central bankers, billionaire philanthropists, corporations. Pastor Graham, the director of Thrive 1 and about this too. He talked about the pyramid of control, and then at the top you have, that one guy starts with an S. His name is Satan, and I think he runs all this whole world, and then he has all these other agents down the line. And I didn't used to think this way till after COVID times, but he looked at the structure of the world, and he looked at corporations and bankers run this world, and they're the ones that tell politicians what to do. Politicians, I don't believe, run the world anymore. And that's why my message and my purpose in my social media and on my YouTube channel is to share knowledge and information to wake people up about that. Let's see here. If we are convinced that losing will be catastrophic, then that's what we will experience. Better to stay in neutral. And I love that. Absolutely. That's the awakening that I'm having. I didn't think that way in the last election. I was very distraught when my candidate didn't win, and I was like, "Oh, great! We're gonna have all these things." I was distraught when my candidate didn't win. What, 3 or 4 2 or 3 elections ago? Probably 2 or 3 elections ago, maybe 3. But I realized, but nothing really changed. Again, the war machine kept going. Wall Street kept getting bailed out. Countries kept being enslaved with money. And so I've realized now that, there's something beyond these candidates. There's entities beyond these candidates that are running the system. People have known it for a long time. Like I said, I didn't really put all the pieces together until recently, but yeah, I agree 100%. And I keep going back, my channel started with conscious creation and manifestation, and being a person who is, creates it in our mind, what we want in our mind first, and then bring those things into the real world, get our hands in the clay. But then it switched in COVID times, because I realized there was like a bigger problem in the world, that people's attentions was hijacked. They were being artificially influenced by the system outside of themselves. And so I started talking more about mainstream issues and more like media news things. And I was like, okay, this is the biggest problem facing humanity right now, to get these hijackers off the consciousness of people. And I kind of got sucked in, and I still kind of get sucked in a way to what's going on. But I have to realize, and I come back to my roots. I mean, I got these books around me already, lots of Neville Goddard, and just to keep me focused on our power and what we have in the world. It's a wild time, but my my sense is that this country is a tinderbox just ready to pop off, and we can't have that happen, because I think they want that. I always go back to the ants in the jar analogy, or black ants and red ants in a jar, and they're shaking the jar violently. And the ants are looking at one another going, no, you're the problem. No, you're the problem. And it's just super detrimental, because I think they win when we're fighting amongst ourselves, not only because we create fear and anxiety and tension, but because it takes the focus off who the real problem children in this world are, the people shaking the jar. And then I also dove deep into, looking into all these wars and the conflicts around the world, and Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini, talking about the 3 world wars. And I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense to me. If they do want to install the NEWWORLDORDER, they're right on track. And me as a human being on this world right now, I want to do everything I can to avoid that and do my work in the world despite what they're doing, do my purpose, do my ikigai, as you are doing your purpose and your ikigai in the world, regardless of what they're doing, right? Because when they hijack attention, they're really just they can hijack attention and use people for their own nefarious means. That's what it looks like to me. And I'm not going to be used for their nefarious means. I want to be used for God's means, right? Creating a heaven on earth experience instead of a hell on earth experience. And that can only happen when we realize what's going on and turn away from them. And this is one thing that I try to put into words in many cases, and do put into words, is the only reason they have power is because we give them the power. We give them our attention. We listen to them. We focus on them. This is why one of the best things I can recommend, and I talk about this in the Great Awakening Guide at greatawakeningguide.com. Turn off the media, turn off the movies, the television stuff, because it just gives them our power, and that's not a good thing for our world. It's an interesting situation, but they only have what we give them, and if we don't give them anything, they will have nothing. And many people are turning away. I think this could be the last kind of writhing, what a tantrum that they're giving to try to keep people's attention captured. And I think the trend is for people to wake up. I don't think anyone's going more asleep, right? Only because I feel like we're, as the Great Reset, as their plans for a great reset and more enslavement of humanity comes online, also the Great Awakening comes online, and what could be the great freedom, the great escape, to be quite honest, from the matrix, from their hold on humanity. Many people are turning away, and I think that's the trend moving forward. But that's my message today. Don't freak out if your candidate doesn't win. There's so many people behind these candidates, and so many power structures that are running the candidates, that the machine's going to move forward. And I'll end with this. Someone on my social media at G. Mark Phillips today posted something on the clown video and said, hey, we want to avoid this person from being elected. And I wrote back and I said, I think that Lucifer has both candidates pretty wrapped up at this point. Not even, it doesn't even frighten me or scare me anymore about that, because I know, again, we have power too. But that person who's running the show here in this fallen world is very thorough, and just has a lot of agents in play on the ground, boots on the ground. And so I'm no longer like, that's not how we're going to win the war. We're going to win the war and the battle by putting our attention back on God, thinking of God, acting like God, talking like God. What would God do? What would Jesus do? Those kind of things. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you. I appreciate your comments and your thumbs up. I wish you all the best, and have an awesome day. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, we do got this. Absolutely. Bless you too. Have an awesome day.